Parentification and role reversal represent a critical escalation in the process of parental alienation because they fundamentally invert the attachment hierarchy. When children are drawn into adult emotional roles, the child is no longer organized around being cared for. The child becomes organized around caring for the caregiver. This shift is not benign. It alters regulation, identity formation, and relational expectations in ways that are developmentally costly. Attachment hierarchies are asymmetric by design. Caregivers regulate, children are regulated. Emotional safety flows downward. When this hierarchy is intact, children are free to explore, experience ambivalence, and express need without fear of destabilizing the system. Parentification violates this structure by assigning the child responsibility for the caregiver's emotional state. In parental alienation dynamics, parentification often emerges subtly. A caregiver expresses distress, fear, or vulnerability related to the other parent. The child observes that certain topics, memories, or expressions reliably increase emotional instability. Over time, the child adapts by monitoring the caregiver's mood and adjusting behavior to prevent distress. The child may become a confidant, hearing details about adult conflict, legal disputes, or perceived betrayals. The child may be positioned as emotionally special or uniquely understanding. While this can feel like closeness, it is not secure attachment. It is emotional enmeshment. The child's value becomes tied to emotional caretaking rather than to being cared for. Role reversal intensifies psychological control by adding moral obligation to emotional dependency. Expressing affection for the other parent now carries an added meaning. It risks hurting someone the child feels responsible for protecting. Under these conditions, autonomy collapses. From a developmental perspective, parentification forces premature self-regulation. The child learns to inhibit needs, minimize distress, and prioritize others' emotions. This often produces apparent maturity, calmness, insight, composure that is mistakenly interpreted as resilience. In reality, it reflects emotional overcontrol and suppression. Parentified children frequently develop hypervigilance. They scan emotional environments for signs of instability. They anticipate reactions. They intervene preemptively. This chronic monitoring taxes cognitive and emotional resources that would otherwise support learning, play, and social development. In alienation contexts, parentification also reinforces loyalty conflict. The child's attachment system becomes organized around protection rather than connection. Loving or enjoying the other parent is no longer just risky. It is framed internally as betrayal or abandonment. The child resolves this conflict by limiting or rejecting attachment expression. This is not a conscious moral decision. It is an adaptive response to role confusion. Role reversal also reshapes the child's narrative identity. Children may define themselves as strong, responsible, or emotionally independent. While these traits may appear positive, they often mask unmet dependency needs. The child's identity forms around usefulness rather than worth. Memory and narrative processes are influenced as well. Parentified children often adopt the caregiver's interpretations of events because alignment preserves emotional stability. Dissent threatens the relationship. Over time, the child's internal narrative aligns with the caregiver as emotional needs rather than with personal experience. Importantly, parentification undermines the child's capacity for reciprocal relationships. When children learn that closeness requires caretaking, they may later gravitate toward relationships characterized by imbalance, over-responsibility, or emotional labor. The early violation of attachment hierarchy becomes a template. In the context of parental alienation, parentification accelerates attachment reorganization. The child becomes emotionally fused with one caregiver while distancing from the other. This fusion is often mistaken for closeness or preference. In reality, it is a constrained attachment organized around obligation. Attempts to restore contact without addressing role reversal often fail. The child cannot risk destabilizing the caregiving relationship. Appeals to fairness or reassurance do not resolve the underlying fear of causing harm. From an assessment standpoint, indicators of parentification include adult-like language, justification of restrictions using moral reasoning, dismissal of personal needs, and emotional alignment that mirrors the caregiver's distress. These indicators should be understood as evidence of role confusion, not maturity. Parentification is particularly damaging because it deprives the child of a core developmental experience, being held emotionally by someone more capable. When children must hold others, they cannot rest. When they cannot rest, attachment security deteriorates. Understanding parentification clarifies why parental alienation cannot be resolved by focusing on the child's stated wishes. A child who feels responsible for a caregiver is not free to choose. The attachment hierarchy has already been inverted. Restoring healthy attachment requires reestablishing appropriate roles. Caregivers must resume responsibility for regulation. Children must be released from emotional duty. Until that occurs, loyalty conflict and alienation will persist. Parentification is not evidence of strength. It is evidence of burden. And in the context of parental alienation, it is one of the clearest indicators that the child's attachment system is being used to meet adult emotional needs rather than protected for the child's development.